Thanks for joining us for the Customer Experience Podcast. My name's Troy Batchelor, and we're going to be discussing client-centric best practices, tools, and ideas with today's top facility management leaders. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Please be sure to share it on any of your social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. We'd love to hear your feedback as well. If you have ideas for future podcasts or future interviews, please be sure to email me, Troy Batchelor at FrenchCompanyLLC.com, and I look forward to getting your feedback. Enjoy. So Bennett, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate you jumping on the call and sharing your experience with everybody on the podcast.
Well, my name is Bennett Van Wert. I'm the National Sales Manager for DWM Comprehensive Facility Solutions, and we do facilities maintenance, construction, water filtration for large retail brands, retail, restaurant, grocery brands all across North America. So I got into this role about just over a year ago, so it was actually February of 2017. Before that, I actually worked for not-for-profit in fundraising, so not quite the same sort of sales role that I'm in now, but there's a lot of similarities in how you get to know those people, what they care about, what their the heartstrings are, or now what their needs are, what their pains are. So in that way, there are a lot of similarities.
Yeah, I was going to say that's really interesting because a lot of what you learned, for lack of a better word, knocking on doors in the not-for-profit. I mean, United Way, nobody, sure, they're willing to speak to you, and to make those connections, you can't be afraid to reach out to people that are at those higher levels and have those discussions, and it kind of forced you into that. That's a very interesting correlation. I don't know that I've talked to anybody that's kind of come from that direction. So what attracted you to the role that you have now?
Well, in the role I have now, I wanted to be in a place where I can make a pretty direct impact on the company. So being the national sales manager, I have a pretty direct influence on where we'll be next year, 5 years from now.
Right.
So that's exciting. That's very purposeful, meaningful for what I do every day. I also want to be part of a great company.
What attracted you? What challenges did you have coming in? And I guess if you gave yourself advice now that you've been in it for a little while, if you had to give yourself advice back then, what would you have told yourself?
Sure. Well, and coming into it, thinking about facilities, I thought it was more so janitorial work. So I didn't understand the whole, handyman, electrical, plumbing, and then the construction and remodel side of things. So those were definitely new to me. And it's been a huge learning curve getting to know about HVAC and, more in depth in the plumbing systems and how remodels work. So by all means, it's been a huge learning experience for me, but it's been a lot of fun in that too. There's of course so much still to learn, but I've come a long way in the last year. I would say some of the things that I've learned over that time that maybe I wish I had known when I first came into it is, first of all, the sales cycle in this industry is pretty long. So just I have to be patient. And that's something that was a little bit different from where I came from before, where we have, the scheduled campaigns that come out yearly. And you kind of have it, you start it up, you close it, you know where everything is, you're done.
Right.
This is a whole lot different. So the cycle is longer. You deal with a lot more leads, different industries, different people, different roles, whether you're procurement, whether you're facilities, whether you're construction.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that I don't know that it's unique to the industry, but in the larger retailers, there's usually not one person who's making the decision. It's usually a group of people that are making the decision. And how different and unique each organization is upon itself, where you may have two segments of an organization working together in one company, right? Construction and facilities, in some companies work really well together, and in the next company, they don't speak to each other. And it's the strangest thing you've ever seen, and you have to deal specifically with construction or specifically with facilities maintenance. And it's not that they're combative. It's just their organizations are siloed to the point where they make independent decisions. They have independent budgets. They don't typically try to leverage all that kind of stuff. It's just really unique in how that plays out. Would you agree with that?
I would completely, and that affects how we approach those companies too. As you know,
Right.
Whether it's are they overseeing both departments? Are they overseeing construction and facilities, or is that completely different? And are the people who are building the stores in touch with the people who are maintaining the stores? And that can be a disconnect sometimes too, when you use a material that is impossible to maintain, and then you have to fix it, and it's the cost is not what they expected.
Right.
So it is. It's interesting how and everybody's different too. There's not a clear-cut way for retail, restaurants, or grocery or healthcare or anything.
Now, one of the things you mentioned earlier was that steep learning curve when you came into the industry. Were there some specific resources that you used? And I guess the second part of that question was, there's industry related stuff, but then did you do any formalized like sales training or go through anything like that as well?
Yeah, and mainly on my own.
Okay.
I've been to a few, one-day seminars or, kind of things here and there like that. But once I knew that I wanted to be in sales, and that's something that I knew I would be able to be good at and make a career out of, then I started, as you and I talked about previously,
Yep.
podcasts and Audible, those things that are just huge. And that's, I guess, going back to something I wish I knew when I was coming out of school, was that you're not done learning, and
No.
that the more that you can take in all by yourself, the more valuable you're going to be. And really, it's that easy. So it's almost just realizing that those resources are so close. So when you have I wonder about that. Yeah, seriously, Google it, and you can find the answer.
And it takes away everybody's excuses, right? If I don't know how to do something, and that goes back to even folks we deal with on a regular basis, you can say, hey, I need you to do something with this Excel document. Well, I don't know how to do that. Well, just Google it. Mm-hmm. You'll learn in like 10 minutes what to do, and you'll be able to do it in Excel, no problem. So one of the things that we tend to focus on is obviously how the facilities maintenance industry really impacts the end customer experience, right? And a lot of it is unseen. The customer, you and I, when we go grocery shopping or we go to the store or whatever, now you or I, it may be a conscious thought of what that facility looks like, but the majority of customers really probably pay zero attention to what it is consciously. It's unconsciously that they pay attention to a lot of those things. And, as being national sales director, kind of talk to us about how you communicate that or work with companies in that aspect. Because everybody's about, how do they support their brand, right? That's a big deal right now. It's hot button or hot topic. Would you agree?
I would, yeah, and the in-store or on-site experience seems to be taking a little more precedence over some other aspects of it too. So, and companies look at it differently too. Sometimes it's a very basic line item, and every brand has different expectations. If you're a high-end retailer, or if you're a dollar store,
Yep.
There's going to be a whole lot different expectations, and they have different budgets, different amount they're willing to spend or put into the store, because they understand, usually they have a good understanding of what that payback looks like for their brand. So we fit in exactly, how they want to see it. But that's something that you need to pretty much have your finger on the pulse of, because if you go in with bids that are here when they should be, down here, then that's not showing a good understanding of what they're looking for. But
right.
That support of their image is completely different for every brand. And excuse me. And I think as things change in retail, especially, those change pretty frequently. So again, with getting to know your clients and the relationships that you build, like you talked about, that's super important, because you want to be ahead of that curve as they're making those changes, and offering solutions that are more aligned with the direction they're trying to go and the value that they're trying to provide their customers. So the more in tune you can be with that, I think the better we are as resources for our clients, because we're truly trying to work through this with them.
Have there been any trends that you've noticed that retailers are paying more attention to this specific aspect of facility maintenance? I mean, from your company deals with a lot of different I guess verticals in the facility maintenance piece. And so have you seen any kind of trends that way that, it just seems more and more we're focusing more on this particular aspect of that brand image piece?
Again, I guess both retail and restaurants are changing to where it's generally, I'd say people are spending less time in the stores, and that goes for restaurants as well. So with the quick serve pickup windows or curbside to go, or even drive-throughs at places that you wouldn't think of for having a drive-through. It's not quite a McDonald's, or whether you get a pizza through a drive-through, things like that.
Most retailers, now with the click and pick up, your customers are not necessarily spending as much time in the location. So how do you leverage that visit, either to pick up the items or whatever, so that they pick up something else? So because if you're as a retailer, as a past retailer, it's not just about what you came for. I want to sell you something that you didn't expect to get when you come for that one item you get. So if I'm a grocer and you came to get milk, I need to figure out, how do I sell you cereal or a donut or something else, a glass to put the milk in, a bowl to put something, right? Because that's where I'm going to make my money, is making your trip more than what you intended it to be. Not, there's still value there, but that's my job as a retailer, is to help you see those values in other things.
Yeah, certainly. And now that digging into it a little bit more from that aspect, we see that a lot on the construction side, because it seems that maybe retailers are a little quicker to change the layout or the design of their store, because that's much more, that experience is much more, I guess it's more important than it used to be. So as they continue to try to improve profits and increase store traffic, the complete layouts of the store change. So whether that's not only getting a little bit smaller, but making sure the traffic flow is up to where it needs to be, or that it's integrated with the certain technology that they have within a store, or that the whatever deals they have going on, or whatever's more profitable for them, that can completely change the design of their store. And that's for retail, or even if you're a grocery store, that's going to change the flow in where people shop.
Talk to me about some of the productivity hacks. How do you stay productive being in the road all the time with continued responsibilities?
So it's difficult. So having some sort of a strategy that you want to have ahead of time before you travel, a schedule set up for while you're traveling, whether it's to see clients or whatever, but making sure that you have that time to focus on what you need to focus on. And I think that means prioritizing it to even higher level while you're traveling, because you might not be able to answer all the emails like you would when you're in the office. You may not be able to hit every to-do item that you have while you're out of the office. I heard something one time that even being tired, your perception of how tired you are decreases when you get more tired. So it's kind of similar to somebody who's had too much to drink. They're not really aware of how much they've had to drink and how it's affecting them, because that whole system is like a negative feedback loop for their own judgment upon themselves. So at the same thing, when you get tired, you don't realize how much it's affecting you, how much less focused you are, how much less you're actually getting done. And we actually have, for our whole company, we have a top 6 that we're supposed to have every day. And just at the same thing, when our service coordinators and our team leads are working on all of this work, and their inbox is just blowing up faster than they can keep track of it, they need to have this top 6 sheet Um,
Yeah, explain a little bit about that. That's an interesting concept. A top
yeah,
six.
it's actually, so this is what all of our employees have. It's a
Very
notepad.
cool.
Every day, you can carry it over to the next day. But yeah, it's just constantly prioritizing, because if you can do the most important things, if you get those out of the way, then the rest of your day is already productive.
So on this priority or the top six thing, do you guys have like regular stand-up meetings or things that you guys do as an organization that you feel helps in that productivity? I think people might be interested in some of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, we do have a weekly senior staff meeting where we, you know, try to determine what changes we can make to be more efficient, to be more effective at senior staff level and as a company. So how do we get more efficient, leaner? How do we remove those bottlenecks that are going to let our team get more done, be able to do more work in the same period of time, whatever that is. We do a monthly lunch and learn. So that's where the entire company gets together. We conference in our Orlando office. We'll do lunch for everybody, and we usually cover specific topics.
Right.
So we try to involve everybody, and overall we're pretty transparent with everything that we do. So we want everybody to understand what's going on, where we're headed, what our goals are, what we think we need to improve.
I don't want to say necessarily a younger crowd, but it seems like your organization has been very good at attracting that younger talent into the maintenance industry. Are there any things that you guys do specifically, areas you target or schools you look for or things like that? Because I think other organizations would be interested in how can we begin to attract the younger group.
Yeah, and in having those good fits when we bring new employees on is huge, because you not only want to enjoy working with that person every day, but you need to work together as teammates, and you want to have somebody that is going to do the same for you as you would do for them. And when we travel for the shows, it's just great to travel with people that are positive people, that are fun to be around, that are just as energetic and want to continue growing just like you do. So being around those people that are similar to you, that just adds to the whole culture. So we try to be pretty selective, I would say, with who we add to the team, because those are people just like your family that you spend a lot of time with, and you want to enjoy that time.
Absolutely. How do you see the next, say, 5 or 10 years in the industry? What do you see it happening?
Yeah, with the store experience, as we talked about, that continues to be something that gets more attention, but also exactly what that looks like. There's so many things with virtual reality and augmented reality that you can do with the store experience, and some of that doesn't necessarily mean being in the store all the time. There are things where you can try on a shirt, or you see what the piece of furniture would look like in your living room before you even go in the store, just through the use of an app. So from the service side, I think the apps and the CMMS and those technology pieces are so important, because I think proprietary software, and I was impressed when I sat with you at the breakfast at Specs and heard about what you guys did with the whole kind of store tours that you guys do to map the stores was pretty impressive. And there's so many things like that where I'm sure there's going to be things in the next few years that seem like they were so obvious that somebody comes up with, just like Uber, Lyft, things like that are like, why didn't I think of that?
I think it just changes the path. I would totally agree with you. I think retail as an industry has been slow to adopt newer technology. I think we're seeing a lot of that change now, where they are, and unfortunately, Amazon Go and those type folks are really helping push the envelope and forcing people, to the industry as a whole, to look at those different technologies. But I think it's not just on the retail side, direct to the customer. It's on our side too, to your point, looking at ways, how can we be more productive? How can we manage more with less? I think that's the exciting part in the next 5 to 10 years that really will begin to attract a younger group of folks, is that it is not just about maintaining HVAC systems or checking on the parking lot, or is the lighting okay, or are the toilets working all right. It is the technology, I think, aspect of managing facilities differently, creating that and how it translates down to the customer, and helping the customer being the corporate customer as well as the customer being me, the end consumer, shop differently, act differently, work differently, all that kind of stuff. That's really what I think is going to attract the younger group to the industry, is all this new changing in technology, because it's going to be cool. And things like this, remote work, remote conferencing, all of that is going to be helpful for the millennials and folks who really want a different work relationship than what they have today.
Well, I think we're just in the direction that we're headed there. I've had a few mentors over the last 5 years that have been super impactful to my professional career and me personally. So I encourage everybody to seek out mentors, whether it's their local market, whether it's things like this, or people you meet at the shows. I know RIFMA, Specs, I'm sure Prism does as well. There are programs that, again, with technology, there are so many people that know so much more than you that you can learn from, that are so accessible. So as long as you ask them, engage them the right way, ask good questions, there's wealth of knowledge that are there as well.
That's fantastic advice. Yeah, find somebody to mentor you. It doesn't necessarily have to be from your company or your organization. There are plenty of folks out there on LinkedIn, in different organizations. Reach out and ask somebody. You'd be surprised probably at how willing they are to step into that role and be a mentor. That's great advice. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, Bennett, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. And I will put your contact information below if folks want to reach out and know more maybe about your top 6 priority thing, or what your company does, and how you could help them. And again, just thanks for the time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, by all means, Troy. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for joining us on today's podcast. Look for us every couple of weeks. Be sure to subscribe. Also, please share with everyone you know on all of your social media platforms. We would appreciate the promotion. And if you have ideas for guests or topics, we'd love to hear from you. Email me at troybatchelor@frenchcompanyllc.com, and we'll see you on the next podcast.